Virgo, pause for just a moment. There is a reason you were guided to this message today, and it has nothing to do with coincidence. The energy surrounding you has been changing in ways that aren't immediately obvious, but someone else has been feeling every single shift. While you've been focused on your own path, quietly rebuilding your confidence and protecting your peace, another person has been carrying around emotions they never intended to develop. They thought they could ignore them. They thought time would make them disappear. Instead, those feelings have only become stronger. This person is younger than you, or at the very least, they carry a younger spirit. Their heart reacts before their mind has time to catch up. They aren't as experienced when it comes to handling emotions that feel this overwhelming, and because of that, they've chosen silence over vulnerability. From the outside, they may appear calm, distant, or even completely unaffected. But beneath that surface, there's a conversation happening inside them every single day. They keep asking themselves the same question. Should I say something? Or should I keep pretending none of this exists? And every day, that question becomes harder to answer. Virgo, one of the most fascinating things about your energy is that you rarely chase people. When someone begins pulling away or acting differently, your instinct isn't to create drama. You simply step back. You observe. You respect yourself enough to stop forcing connections that no longer feel balanced. That quiet strength has affected this person far more deeply than you realize. They expected you to fight for their attention. They expected you to wonder what they were thinking. Instead, you continued living your life. You kept growing. You kept smiling. You kept becoming someone who seemed more and more difficult to forget. At first, they convinced themselves that this attraction was temporary. Maybe they admired your confidence. Maybe they simply enjoyed talking to you. Maybe it was curiosity. But curiosity doesn't keep someone awake at 2 in the morning. Admiration doesn't make someone's heart race every time your name unexpectedly appears. Temporary feelings don't quietly follow someone into every ordinary moment of their life. This became something much bigger. Whether you've noticed it or not, this person has been paying attention to everything. They remember conversations you probably forgot happened. They notice small changes in your mood. They recognize when you're becoming quieter than usual. They even catch themselves wondering how your day went, despite having no reason to know. Sometimes they'll see something completely ordinary, a song, a place, a random sentence, and somehow your face immediately comes to mind. It frustrates them, not because thinking about you feels unpleasant, because they can't control it anymore. Virgo, people often assume that the loudest person in the room is the one experiencing the strongest emotions. That couldn't be further from the truth. The deepest feelings often belong to the quietest people. This younger person has become incredibly skilled at hiding what they're feeling. They've mastered small smiles, casual conversations, acting completely normal, but acting and feeling are two very different things. Every interaction with you creates another layer of emotion they don't know how to process. Sometimes they replay your conversations after they're over, not because they're looking for hidden meanings, because hearing your voice somehow brings them peace, and that scares them. You see, they weren't looking for this connection. It interrupted their plans. It challenged the image they had of themselves. They believed they understood exactly what kind of person they wanted in their life. Then you appeared, and suddenly none of those carefully built expectations seemed to matter anymore. Virgo, this person admires something about you that most people overlook. It's not simply your appearance. It's not only your intelligence. It's the way you carry yourself after disappointment. They've noticed that you've been through situations that could have made you bitter. Instead, you became wiser, calmer, more selective. There's a quiet confidence surrounding you now. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't chase approval. You don't compete for attention. You simply exist as yourself. And somehow that has become irresistible. The younger person keeps comparing everyone else to you without even realizing they're doing it. Someone else might be attractive. Someone else might be exciting. Someone else might be available. But every comparison quietly ends the same way. They're not you. That realization has become impossible to ignore. Still, fear continues winning most days. They're afraid of your response, afraid they've misunderstood your kindness, afraid you'll smile politely while explaining that you never felt the same, afraid they'll lose the friendship, the connection, or even the possibility of being part of your world. So instead of speaking, they remain silent. But silence has consequences. Every day they avoid expressing themselves, their imagination becomes louder. What if someone else notices Virgo before I do? What if they're already moving on? What if I wait too long? These questions have slowly replaced the confidence they once had. Virgo, you may have sensed unusual moments recently, thinking about someone unexpectedly, feeling like someone was about to reach out, looking at your phone without any obvious reason, feeling emotionally connected to someone despite the physical distance. Whether you believe in intuition or not, human emotions have a remarkable way of creating invisible connections. Sometimes two people begin thinking about each other at almost the exact same moment. Sometimes one person's silence becomes so emotionally charged that the other person starts sensing it without understanding why. This connection has reached that point. The younger person keeps trying to convince themselves that waiting is the mature decision. But waiting hasn't brought peace. It's only made the feelings deeper. They're beginning to understand something important. Silence protects you from rejection, but it also guarantees you'll never know what could have happened. That realization changes people, especially people who have spent months convincing themselves they had plenty of time. Virgo, time suddenly feels very different to them now. Every day they don't speak feels like another opportunity slipping away. And for someone who's spent so long hiding behind caution, that feeling has become almost unbearable. Their friends may not know the full story. Their family certainly doesn't. But inside, an emotional storm has been quietly building. They've imagined countless versions of the same conversation. One where you smile, one where you walk away, one where you admit you've been waiting to, one where nothing changes. They've rehearsed every possibility so many times that sometimes they catch themselves accidentally smiling in public while imagining your reaction. Then reality returns, and they're reminded they still haven't said a single word. Virgo, perhaps the most beautiful thing about genuine feelings is that they eventually become too heavy to carry alone. People can hide attraction. They can hide curiosity. They can even hide admiration. But authentic emotional attachment? Only for so long. Eventually, it begins showing itself through small cracks, longer eye contact, unexpected nervousness, remembering tiny details, finding reasons to stay in the conversation just a little longer, looking for excuses to send one more message, wondering whether you noticed, wondering whether you felt it too. The younger person is approaching that breaking point, not because they've stopped being afraid, because they're becoming more afraid of never telling you than they are of hearing the answer. And that changes everything. Virgo, There comes a moment in every meaningful connection when silence stops feeling safe. For this person, that moment is getting closer than they ever expected. They've spent so much time convincing themselves that patience was the right choice. They believed waiting would make their emotions settle down, that distance would bring clarity, that life would naturally pull them in another direction. Instead, the opposite happened. Every passing week has quietly confirmed something they never wanted to admit. Their feelings weren't temporary, they've become part of who they are. What surprises them the most isn't how deeply they care about you, it's how naturally you fit into their thoughts without even trying. You've become part of their everyday life. When something exciting happens, you're one of the first people they wish they could tell. When they hear a joke, they wonder whether you would laugh. When something difficult happens, they imagine what advice you might give. It isn't an obsession, it's familiarity, it's emotional comfort, and those kinds of feelings are difficult to replace. Virgo, you've probably noticed that truly genuine connections never need to force themselves into existence. They grow quietly. One conversation becomes two. A shared smile becomes a memory. A simple exchange begins carrying more meaning than either person expected. That's exactly what happened here. Nothing dramatic had to happen. There wasn't one magical moment that changed everything overnight. Instead, dozens of little moments slowly built something neither of you could fully explain. The younger person often goes back to those memories, not because they're living in the past, but because those memories remind them of how effortlessly they felt like themselves around you. That's becoming increasingly rare. In a world where so many people feel pressure to perform, impress, or hide their insecurities, you unknowingly created an atmosphere where they felt accepted without needing to prove anything. That feeling stayed with them long after the conversations ended, long after you both went back to your own routines, long after they told themselves they needed to move on. Virgo, one thing they admire about you is your emotional stability. You don't seem controlled by every emotion that passes through your heart. You listen, you observe, you think before reacting. From their perspective, that's incredibly attractive because deep down, they're still learning how to manage emotions that arrive all at once. Sometimes they wonder whether the age difference explains everything. Maybe you're simply more experienced. Maybe you've learned lessons they're only beginning to understand. Maybe that's why you appear so calm while they're quietly battling thoughts they can't seem to silence. But then another thought appears. Maybe age has nothing to do with it. Maybe emotional maturity comes from experience, not birthdays. And maybe, just maybe, they're finally reaching a point where they're ready to be honest. That possibility both excites and terrifies them. Honesty changes everything. Once words are spoken, there's no taking them back. They know that, which is why they've delayed this conversation for so long. Not because they doubt what they feel, because they understand how powerful honesty can be. Virgo, you've probably been focused on building your own future. You've learned that peace is valuable. You've stopped investing your energy in people who leave you guessing. You've become more protective of your heart. Ironically, that's exactly what makes them realize how serious this has become. They can sense that you're no longer waiting for anyone to make up their mind. You're creating your own happiness. That realization has introduced a new emotion into their heart. Urgency, not rushed desperation, not panic. A quiet understanding that opportunities don't remain available forever. People evolve, lives change, new chapters begin. They've started asking themselves questions they avoided for months. What if Virgo eventually meets someone who recognizes everything I've been too afraid to say? What if my silence becomes the reason I lose this chance? What if I'm protecting myself from rejection while walking directly toward regret? Those questions have become impossible to ignore. And regret has a way of growing heavier with time. Unlike rejection, which hurts for a moment, regret can quietly stay with someone for years. They're beginning to understand that difference. Virgo, if you could see inside their thoughts, you'd probably be surprised by how often they imagine ordinary moments with you, not grand romantic scenes, not perfect movie endings, simple things, walking together after a long day, sharing coffee without needing constant conversation, laughing over something neither of you planned, supporting each other through difficult seasons. Those are the moments they imagine most. Because what they admire isn't an idealized version of you. It's the real person they've come to know. The one who's imperfect, human, resilient, kind, independent. The one who keeps moving forward even after disappointment. They've fallen in love with authenticity more than perfection. And that's something they never expected. As these realizations continue building inside them, pretending becomes more exhausting than telling the truth. They've started noticing it in their own behavior. Friends ask whether something is bothering them. Family members comment that they seem distracted. Even when they're smiling, part of their attention seems somewhere else. They brush it off. They say they're just tired, busy, thinking about work. But deep inside, they know exactly what's occupying their heart. You, not because they've chosen to think about you every day, because their emotions quietly keep finding their way back to the same place. And perhaps that's what surprises them the most. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it grows in silence until silence itself becomes unbearable. Virgo, they're approaching that point now. Every instinct that once told them to stay quiet is beginning to lose its power. Another voice has become stronger, a quieter voice, but a much braver one. It keeps asking the same simple question. If not now, then when? Virgo, something has changed inside this person, and they can no longer ignore it. For a long time, they believed that staying silent was the safest option. It protected them from embarrassment. It protected them from rejection. Most importantly, it protected them from discovering an answer they weren't sure they were ready to hear. But lately, another realization has quietly taken its place. Silence isn't protecting them anymore. It's trapping them. Every day, they wake up with the same promise. Today, I'll finally say something. Then the moment arrives. They see your name. They see your face. They imagine the conversation. And suddenly, every carefully prepared sentence disappears. Their confidence melts into hesitation. So they tell themselves they'll wait one more day. Just one more. But those one more days have become weeks, then months, and every passing day makes the weight inside their heart a little heavier. Virgo, they admire you for reasons they have never spoken aloud. It's not only because you're kind, it's because you've learned how to remain soft without becoming weak. You've experienced disappointment, yet you've refused to let it define who you are. You've learned to protect your peace without building walls around your heart. That balance is something they deeply respect. Sometimes they wonder if you've always been this way. Other times, they realize you've probably earned this wisdom through experiences nobody else fully understands. That thought alone makes them appreciate you even more. Because they don't see someone who's perfect. They see someone who's real, someone who has continued choosing hope even after life gave them reasons not to. And that's rare. Virgo, People often believe love begins with excitement, but lasting feelings usually begin with admiration. Admiration grows into trust. Trust grows into emotional safety, and emotional safety becomes something much deeper than attraction. That's exactly what's happening here. This younger person isn't simply attracted to you anymore. They've started imagining what life could feel like with someone who understands them the way they believe you might. Not because they've created a fantasy, because every interaction you've shared has quietly shown them another piece of your character. The way you listen, the way you encourage people without expecting anything in return, the way you stay composed during difficult moments. Even your silence has taught them something. It has shown them that confidence doesn't always need to announce itself. Sometimes confidence simply exists, and that realization has inspired them to become a better version of themselves. Whether you know it or not, you've influenced their growth, not by giving speeches, not by trying to change them, simply by being yourself. Virgo, that's one of the most beautiful things about genuine human connection. Sometimes the people who change our lives never realize they did. Lately, they've started noticing small signs that make them wonder if the timing is changing. Conversations seem to happen more naturally. Unexpected opportunities to cross paths appear. Mutual friends mention your name without knowing why it matters so much. Even the smallest coincidence feels meaningful to them. They're trying not to read too much into these moments, but hope has quietly returned. Not loud hope, not unrealistic hope, the kind that whispers, maybe it's not too late. Still, hope alone isn't enough. Eventually, action has to follow. They're beginning to understand that courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is speaking honestly while your heart is still racing. That lesson has taken them a long time to learn. Virgo, if they do reach out, don't expect a perfect speech. Don't expect every sentence to sound polished. They've imagined this moment so many times that reality will probably feel completely different. They may stumble over their words. They may laugh nervously. They may pause halfway through a sentence because emotion suddenly becomes stronger than expected. But one thing will be genuine, their sincerity, because after carrying these feelings for so long, pretending simply won't feel possible anymore. This isn't about dramatic declarations. It's about honesty, simple, quiet, real honesty. The kind that says, I didn't expect to feel this way, but I do. Sometimes those are the most powerful words anyone can hear. Virgo, no matter what happens afterward, this person is beginning to understand something important. Some conversations matter more than perfect outcomes. Sometimes expressing the truth becomes part of your own healing because unanswered questions have a way of following people for years. They're tired of wondering, tired of imagining, tired of replaying every possibility inside their mind. They're ready for clarity, whatever form that clarity takes. And perhaps that's the greatest transformation of all. Not that they've stopped being afraid, but that they've decided fear no longer gets to make every decision for them. If this connection is meant to become something more, honesty will open that door. If life has another direction prepared, honesty will bring peace. Either way, silence no longer feels like the answer. Virgo, whether you already sense these emotions or whether this surprises you completely, remember something important. The people who truly value your presence are often fighting battles you'll never see. Some are learning how to communicate. Some are learning how to trust. Some are learning that vulnerability isn't weakness. And some are simply trying to find the courage to tell someone how much they matter. Perhaps that's the quiet lesson surrounding this chapter of your life. Not every important feeling arrives with loud words. Sometimes it grows patiently beneath the surface until one ordinary day, someone finally decides that protecting their heart is no longer as important as speaking from it. And when that day arrives, everything has the possibility to change. Not because fate forces it, but because honesty finally creates the opportunity that fear delayed for so long. Virgo, whatever happens next, continue protecting your peace, your kindness, and your authenticity. Those qualities are exactly what inspired this person's feelings in the first place. Never underestimate the quiet impact your presence has on others. Sometimes the people whose lives you touch the most are the ones who spend the longest searching for the courage to tell you. Virgo, if there's one thing this journey has been trying to remind you, it's this. Not every heart knows how to speak the moment it begins to feel. Some people need time. Some people need distance. Some people need to lose the comfort of silence before they finally discover the courage to tell the truth. Whether this younger person reaches out tomorrow, next week, or when you least expect it, don't let their timing define your worth. Continue becoming the person you've been growing into. Continue protecting your peace. Continue choosing the people who choose you just as confidently, because the right connections are never built on chasing. They're built on honesty, mutual effort, and the willingness to show up when it truly matters. And maybe that's the real message waiting for you today. Not to sit around waiting for someone's words, but to remember that your life doesn't pause while someone else gathers the courage to speak. The right people eventually realize your value. The right people eventually stop hiding. And when they do, you'll be able to decide whether that new chapter still belongs in your story. Trust yourself, trust your intuition, and most importantly, never underestimate the quiet power of simply being authentically you, because sometimes your greatest impact on someone else's life happens without you ever realizing it. If this message resonated with you today, let me know in the comments by typing "I choose peace and honesty." I'd love to hear how this message connected with your journey. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next message created with love and intention for you. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, take care of your heart, keep believing in your own path, and remember, the most meaningful connections are never forced. They unfold when two people are finally ready to meet each other with honesty. See you in the next reading.